Good evening. Today is Tuesday, September 24th, 2024. It is 7:30. We will start the Marlborough Public School Committee meeting. I'd like to remind everyone that we are taped and streamed live through WMCT-TV. If we can call this meeting to order, and we'll start with a Pledge of Allegiance. If we can all rise. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do you have to say that Mrs. Mary?
Yes, sure. We will be doing roll call votes because we have a remote individual. So thank you, Heidi, for coming to our meeting. So moving on. So we will go to the communications. There we do have some communications today. So this is from Carrie Tower of Kinder Circle. It's regarding transportation parameters and guide requests. So by the end of September, could you please post or send out to families the guidelines for the bus stops and routes this year? For example, what is the furthest at what is the furthest at Marlborough High, Wickham Elementary? Student is expected to walk or to get a bus stop. Students must have a sidewalk available to reach the bus stop. True or false? Students are expected to cut through other properties to safely reach their bus stop. True or false? How many students safely fit, including backpacks, sports equipment, and instruments, on each bus? Does that vary by age? I understand the need to reduce the number of stops. It would have been helped things to go more smoothly if families were notified of which stop their child was expected to use, if not at the end of their driveway, street. Also, for the next school year, I suggest returning to the spring bus registration. It may not be perfect, but it seemed helpful. On a different note, I've heard that Wickham Bus 9 is overcrowded and 3 to a seat every afternoon. It does not sound like these middle school students and their stuff fit safely on one bus. And I've heard other Wickham buses have available seats. I'm assuming that is already being addressed. I know this is a challenging and complicated process to change routes. Thank you for your attention to this issue. In conclusion, I hope that by distributing the guidelines for bus stops and routes by the end of this month or sooner, it will reduce confusion and resolve questions for many families. Thank you for consideration of this request. Thank you, Carrie, for reaching out. We appreciate it.
Yes. Director of Finance and Operations, Mr. Wells, is not here tonight, but we did want to respond to the communication to the best of our ability without Mr. Wells being here for some of specifically the bus capacity issues. We know that for a fact. Since the first week of school, we've been counting seats on buses and trying to make adjustments. Some of those adjustments have been happening slower than we would prefer. But for example, Route 3 at Jarrick is now 3 and 3B. They have split that route into half. And Mr. Wells has been going into the schools, bus stops, counting students and making adjustments. So that is in process. What is some of the other questions? What is the furthest at MHS? Whitcomb Elementary student is expected to walk to get to a bus stop. I think most of those expectations this year is about a block, maybe a little bit more. State law is a mile. We are well below that amount. And students must have a sidewalk available to reach the bus stop. True or false? This has been a topic in many cities and towns. There is no legal requirement to have a sidewalk along the way. Many cities and towns are similar to Marlborough. And students are expected to cut through other properties to reach their bus stop. True or false? That is false. Some neighbors would not appreciate that, so we generally don't encourage that. There was another piece of this communication, the registration. Registrations for buses happened a few years ago, but it's not a process we have officially implemented in the last few years. Every student that is registered for the Marlborough Public Schools is basically registered for the bus. That is the current rules. I think that we have tried to speak as much as possible publicly, and we will continue to do this. We understand that we are in the last year of our bus company contract, and we will be going out to bid. That process, by what's going on in every other city and town in the Commonwealth, has doubled the prices of busing. And we are not going to be able to afford that increase in cost to continue to do business as usual in the Marlborough Public Schools. We honestly don't know fiscally, just financially, how much we're going to have to reduce, and we will not know that until after we go through the bid process, which we are hoping to complete sometime this fall before the winter. Once we have a better idea of how much reduction we are going to have to do, how much the walking zones are going to have to be, at that point, we will have public forums. The plan is to have them in a central location, either the Little Theater at Marlborough High School or the Whitcomb Auditorium, and we will be asking to stream them so that anyone that cannot participate can hear the same messages and then give us some feedback. We understand that this process is going to be drastic for all of us, but our goal is going to be maintaining the classroom environments that our students in Marlborough need, and we are not going to be able to have that same level of classroom sizes and instruction and programs and advanced placement classes and dual enrollment offerings and all of our other pathways and maintain the same level of busing. So we're hoping to get out as much as possible with this message so that people are prepared and educated and have a voice and are able to express their frustrations because we know change is hard. So hopefully that answers some of the questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? If not, moving on. Move on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Whitcomb School schedule. Last spring, Principal House presented to the school committee her plan to add general music classes to the student schedules. The school committee asked her to revise her plan at that time. She will present an updated student schedules and enrollment in general music sections after the requested changes were implemented. Principal House?
Thank you. Good evening. Sorry in advance if I start coughing. I don't know. It just came on. So I wanted to provide everyone, so I just passed out an updated version of the PowerPoint. At the back of the version you all have is some sample schedules out of Aspen and just the most accurate numbers I could pull to date for general music class sizes for grades 6, 7, and 8. So that's the additional few slides. Just some background and overview that I think is important when talking about electives, specials, and music in general at Whitcomb. Currently within the building, we're serving just about 993 students. It ranges by the day, but we have 3 music teachers, 3 art teachers, 3 digital media teachers, 3 engineering teachers, and 6 wellness teachers. Those wellness teachers are primarily divided 1 health, 1 PE per each grade level. So we're able to align mostly for grade levels for our specials. Students have 60 days of art, digital media, and engineering. Those 60 days are consecutive days, and they rotate through each one so that every school year the students go through all of the offerings. Those current class sizes are right around 23. And health and physical education, as the schedule currently looks based on feedback last year, students have 60 days of health, physical education, and music, but instead of those 60 days being consecutive by trimester, to support the physical needs of students and maintain performing groups to meet over the course of the year so that health lessons can be embedded over the course of the year and physical movement can happen for students throughout the course of the year. Those classes happen within a week. So depending on which class they're in, they would have, for example, health Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they would have chorus, and then Friday would be their PE, and that would maintain as their schedule for the first trimester. And then the second trimester, they would have health Monday, Tuesday, they would rotate through, so health Monday, Tuesday, PE Wednesday, Thursday, and then their music class on a Friday. And then that last trimester, they'd have their music on the Monday, Tuesday. The current class size varies from 15 to 30 students depending on the preference of music. So their PE and music have to be kind of paired together with their wellness block. So by doing this, we were able to ensure that chorus could meet all year, band and orchestra, and also general music offering was brought back into a choice for our students within Whitcomb. And the breakdown of students who elected into the different, so every student was given an option through a Google form, grades 5, 6, and 7. Obviously, our 8th graders went on to the high school. And you'll see the number breakdown. So in 6th grade, we have 102 students that elected into band, 39 into chorus, and 92 into orchestra. 134 opted for a general music course. In 7th grade, we have 58 band members, 63 choir, 69 orchestra, and 103 in general music. And then in 8th grade, 65 in band, 77 in chorus, and 51 in orchestra, with 110 choosing general music. Underneath it is that update. So we have 5 sections of each of the general music courses that run full year, and those are the current class sizes of those general music classes. So ranging anywhere from 16 to really 29. Updates from the music department. I did meet with them today. They do have a concert scheduled for December. December 10th is the first one, and they vary through the week after that. So each performance group will have their concert in December, and then another in May.
Great. Any questions? Yes.
Tucker. First of all, thank you very much. I appreciate all of the effort, because I know this was not an easy task to try and make that happen, to get to having something the full extension of the year. So I do really want to say thank you, because it was a lot to schedule. And I'm sure there were probably a lot of people helping you too. So
Yes.
please pass along that thanks to your helpers as well. I'm really glad that the opportunity is there, that everybody can have, music, especially throughout the year, and the performing groups. I think it's great to pair it with health and PE too, which just seems smart to get everybody moving as well. Quiz question, and I apologize since I didn't have those schedules ahead of time. I'm not sure I could be asking something that's in there, but it's really teeny type, and I can't really read it at the moment. So are we looking at the way that you're handling for the trimesters? Is it really by, say, like grouping of grade? So like 6th grade will primarily only get, one music option, say in the first trimester, and 7th in the, how is that being handled? Or is it all over the map?
So because there's only 3 music teachers, and based on those class size numbers, we needed the available sections. So we couldn't have all of 6th grade. That was the plan, was to start them on Friday musics and then work them through the rotation. But because we need 5 general musics for 6th grade, plus 3 choir, 4 orchestra, and 4 band, there's not enough sections in a Friday to do it. So each grade level, each performance group has a different Friday trimester. So I know, for like instance, 7th grade orchestra right now might be the Friday, but 6th grade general music might also be a Friday. And 8th grade band could be a Friday.
Okay.
And then they rotate through that way.
And that's, I guess, what I was kind of wondering, how that was kind of factoring, because when we need to think about the way that we needed to handle the budget limitations, that we needed to make changes in discussion with the elementary schools about the time on learning allocation that they felt that they needed, but that did put a limitation on having the 5th grade band option and orchestra option in the elementary schools. We may not be seeing the effects of that right now, but I am curious how that's going to roll forward, and I feel like it needs to be mentioned at this point, because we are making this change, yet how are we going to make sure that we're ensuring the opportunity of supporting not only the elementary students on getting that exposure, which we've talked about, but also to make it a comprehensive program at the middle school, so we're not losing a step somewhere. And obviously it's a lot to put on folks if they're only getting a certain amount of time frame as well. So I don't want to belittle all of the work you've done because it's amazing, but I also want to make sure in making these changes, we're also thinking about the full trajectory and how that's going to hopefully not impact the incredible music program that we have throughout the district, but especially at the high school. So I'm kind of saying it out loud, not saying that there's a solution at this moment, but I think we need to continue to brainstorm as a district of how to be supportive of what you've put in place here, but making sure that we are also then trying to figure out how to make sure that we've got a support target from elementary to middle school in that transition. So, don't know if anyone else wants to add, but that was just something that kind of hit me too.
I just want to say thank you. I think it was a great solution.
Yeah.
But I would love for you to come back next year with the same music enrollment breakdown, because I am curious to see how the numbers compare next year. And then I echo everything she said.
Yeah, and I can do like a previous breakdown too. We have all the data saved from previous year's schedules. I will say that the 6th grade has come in and they were very excited about band and continuing orchestra, but through like their lens being opened and seeing like the options with chorus and general music, some of them are now coming to us and saying, we've made a decision, we want to change, we want to try something different. So I'm sure the numbers will even change as the year kind of goes on. And a cappella and jazz band is starting next week, so that'll be an additional opportunity for our students, which will be great.
Are those after school?
They are, yep. I'm working with them to figure out the best way to get, we have guaranteed transportation home after school. We don't have guaranteed transportation to school, so just trying to figure out after auditions what works best for our students that make those ensembles.
And I guess just to end that, I know this discussion also will lead towards a policy discussion,
Yes.
since we will need to be reworking the policy right now, which is more based on a quarters at Wickham, and we'll need to have more of a policy discussion around the trimester situation, which you put in place to meet what our request was of making sure that music was then throughout the year.
Yeah, and the trimesters truly with the 18 teachers and the 6 elective opportunities, it makes sense to rotate them every 60 days. It wouldn't have been as cohesive on a quarterly basis.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have been able to do it all in 1 week, which is important.
If it's possible, just since this is a new way of approaching it, to make sure that we're satisfying also what the teachers were looking for of having, longer blocks to really get more of an assessment. If there's a way that you could come back to us, maybe like say, January, February, before we would really get too close to the budget season, to really understand how effective it's been, any feedback that you've gotten, whether it be from the students, the family, or the teachers, I think it would be helpful just so we can understand for moving forward and planning.
I do think it's most effective not to have, my personal opinion, and from students sharing personal, just not to make them choose which elective that they're going to miss because of a different opportunity. I do think in the middle school, that is like the foundation, like you're going to experience everything for the last time before you're heading off to the high school or your next step in secondary education. And so I do think it's important that that's the message we continue to share with families and students, like you're going to have an opportunity to get through everything by the time you leave here, and then that'll help you make a better decision when you move on. So they do appreciate not having to choose between music and an additional PE or music and an additional elective.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Yeah. One more.
Yeah, this end of the table. I just wanted to also add my thanks. I know we kind of threw you a little bit of a curveball when we started asking you to do this, and I asked for consistency, and this is very consistent. Just a couple of things I have, just as the music teacher side of me. Maybe I missed this when you said this, but during the course of the year, switching from one thing to another, from a music course, band, general music, is that going to happen, be able to happen?
So we put a hard stop of last Friday, but we had 3 course changes yesterday because we had missing so many Mondays and Fridays in those first few weeks of school. Some of the groups didn't really even get to meet and understand like what are the expectations of being in a performance group. So we're making some exceptions and hearing parents who want to make the changes and just trying to make it work for the students. But I would say that past next week, you're in a performance group, and that's your goal for the year. We want to make sure that there's a consistent group of students that can perform together when those concerts come up.
Because I had one school that we had two choices, general music or chorus. That was all we had. But every day my phone would blow up with who was changing what to what. So putting together performances are a little bit tough. But also at the end of the grade, when they're moving to the next grade, there's concern there a little bit, only because of general music more than anything else. How you transition from the end of a sixth grade, I'm sure there's some kind of a progression that goes between one grade and another in the music classes, and that's the only place I think I'd have a little concern, but I'm sure the music staff will figure that out at some point.
Yeah, we'll bring them in for that conversation and kind of determine what's best at that point. What I don't want to do is a new Google form every year and have students continue to kind of switch between them.
Right.
I think it's important they make their selection and then they stick with it for their 3 years with us. That's the goal.
Consistency is good for everybody in the music world, I can tell you.
Yes.
Thank you again so much. Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Anything else?
I don't think so. I think we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Marlborough Public Schools pre-K to 12 roadmap for the 2024-2025 school year. This week I'm sharing information regarding stop number 1 on our roadmap, which is well-structured lessons at the Marlborough Public Schools. On September 11th, all principals and school leaders pre-K to 12 introduced 2 new tools, well-structured lesson preparation tool and the structured lesson walkthrough tool. I have attached both of these tools to my report. The preparation tool is the first resource shared with educators as we focused on our district instructional priority area that all teachers will be supported in preparing and delivering well-structured lessons grounded in the district-approved high-quality instructional materials using inclusive practices so all students, particularly students with disabilities and English learners, can meet grade-level standards and engage in deeper learning. With the expansion of high-quality instructional materials in our classrooms, teachers are shifting from preparation, searching for materials, to planning, anticipating student questions and planning responses. The walkthrough tool is designed to provide immediate feedback to educators. It acknowledges each element of a well-structured lesson that was observed during the time an administrator was in each class. The next stop on the roadmap is high expectations, and I will report on that step once it is introduced to all educators. The Marlborough High School 2023-2024 Special Olympics Unified Champion School. Special Olympics Massachusetts notified Dr. Riley that Marlborough High School has been declared an official 23-24 Special Olympics Massachusetts Unified Champion School. I have attached the letter and certificate that was sent to Dr. Riley. The letter states, "This designation showcases your school's dedication to embracing diversity, promoting equity, and empowering students to be change advocates. By providing a platform for students with and without intellectual disabilities to collaborate in sports, education, and in community engagement, you are creating a more accepting world that values every individual's unique contributions. Congratulations, Dr. Riley and Marlborough High School." And finally, I wanted just to add a note that today I received a communication from Amherst School about a projected request to increase student enrollment to the Board of Education, and I will be including more information about that at our next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate that you let us know that you had just learned about this request. Definitely, I've kind of been keeping an eye over the last number of years about enrollment numbers. As you all know, I'm painful like that. So I have shared a quick, I guess, Excel spreadsheet that I pulled together. And I do plan on updating it with additional information because I think, as we've discussed, be it that it's a public school, we need to make sure that there are enough offerings above and beyond just our general studies that would be offered there. Specifically wanting to make sure that it's emulating the 4 districts that the whole charter was started, which is emulating the makeup of the students of Marlborough, Maynard, Hudson, and Clinton. So I think it's really important that we need to take a real deep dive on not only our 4 districts, but also the makeup of AMSA to really understand the situation moving forward, because previously they were already over their cap, that they were supposed to be at a hard number of 966, and in previous years they actually were over that number for a number of years. So I just think that we really need to do a lot of analysis when we have this on our agenda to discuss in the future. So thank you.
Anything else? Seeing none, we'll move on. Moving on to the Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning, Dr. Skaza.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Playbook Initiative Year 2. I am very pleased to report that we will continue the Playbook Initiative again this 2024-2025 school year. As a reminder, Playbook is an extension of Project 351 in a partnership with the Boston Celtics. Project 351 is an independent nonprofit organization that builds a movement of youth-led service by engaging an unsung hero from each of Massachusetts' 351 cities and towns. United for a year of leadership and service, ambassadors transform communities, elevate kindness, advance social justice, and gain the courage, compassion, and capabilities to lead change. One of our Project 351 student ambassadors and Playbook leaders, Yanira Uribe Rosa, has been preparing to lead this very important work that will have a positive impact on the environment of our Whitcomb Middle School. She recently chose Playbook as her project for the year and completed the 2024-2025 Playbook application. I was actually over at the high school last week. Dr. Riley was gracious enough to let us use the conference room, and we worked on that application together, and she's just about there. This school year, our Playbook Initiative lead educator will be Mr. Dave Soha, Whitcomb science teacher. I will update the committee as the school year progresses and we get closer to our first workshop with the 30 middle school student influencers. Anti-bias, anti-racism, otherwise known as ABAR Steering Committee update. The ABAR Steering Committee met last week and discussed the plan for the first full professional development day this coming November. Members of the building-based ABAR teams will be facilitating a morning session focused on preparing educators to teach student lessons on topics such as defining empathy, the power of words, stereotypes, and discrimination. And then finally, after our conversation last school committee meeting, I wanted to bring a new bullying prevention resource for Whitcomb Middle School to the attention of the school committee. And Lindsay Castro, our Director of Social Emotional Learning, has joined us this evening. And just a note, she has a bad back, so she really is stepping it up to be here to help me provide some additional details. I recently met, give her a little time to get up to the podium, with Principal House to discuss a new resource for both Whitcomb Advisory and grades 6, 7, and 8 health and wellness classes. The Second Step program offers a specific unit on recognizing bullying and harassment. Whitcomb currently uses the Second Step program for social emotional lessons during their advisory period. This additional unit focuses specifically on bullying prevention through a series of 6 lessons that cover topics such as social and environmental factors that contribute to bullying and using strategies to disrupt factors that contribute to bullying and harassment. Thank you for being here.
Hi, thanks for having me. Good evening. So the Second Step bullying curriculum is great. The elementary school has been using it for many of years, so it builds upon itself for the older kids, which is really nice. A lot of the same language and concepts are taught, and then they continue to grow. The 6th grade curriculum really focuses on bullying, understanding definitions of bullying versus harassment, what is bullying, and online bullying. It really gets into some of that concepts for the kids. Grade 7 talks a lot about like sexual harassment and gender gender-based harassment, and it focuses on those things. And then 8th grade really talks about like social and emotional factors, societal factors that lend itself to bullying. And then what's really nice about the curriculum is that the questions and the conversations are really thought-provoking. It's not usually a yes or no, but it really lends itself to discourse for students around like, is this, is it not, why isn't it? The curriculum also really does a nice job of having videos that show diverse student populations, so our students can really relate to the students in the videos as well. And then it ends each unit with performance tasks, so it's really nice that you can get like that exit ticket feedback from the students to understand if they can really put what they've learned into practice and being able to take a step back and reflect on it. And it does, the curriculum has, like I said, role play scenarios, journaling, so there's a lot of different opportunities for kids to share their thoughts and perspectives on what they're learning, and for teachers to understand whether or not the kids are getting the concepts, which are really nice as well. Matt, for Whitcomb, they're going to be taught during their wellness classes during the month of October. Elementary school usually follows the same framework around, I think this year they're starting the second week of October, so there'll be a 1 week lag time behind when they start their bullying curriculum and units as well. But so throughout the district, everyone should be focusing on the same concepts around the month of October. During elementary is the SEL, and again, Whitcomb would be during their wellness time. The other really nice thing about the curriculum is that it aligns itself with the CASEL competencies, which are the social, emotional, the 5 competencies. And if you go through, you can see, and on each lesson plan, it tells you which competencies you're going to be addressing during the lessons for the teachers too. So that's really helpful for the teachers to know exactly what they're going to be addressing and working on. And there's opportunities to grow off of the Tier 1 interventions based upon the second step curriculum into Tier 2 groups too. So there is opportunities for kids that might not have gotten the concepts during the first initial Tier 1 for there to be some follow-up work around Tier 2 groups at Whitcomb this year as well.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Yes.
Of course, sorry. So 2 things. Number 1, is there an element of being able to loop in the parents so that they can be involved in this process? So it's an extension of not just, relying specifically on the teaching staff of having to execute getting the curriculum out, but really engaging with the families so that they can be partners, because they really are the partners on making sure that this is happening throughout.
Yeah, there are parent letters that are part of the curriculum too that can be sent home that are translated already, but there's always more opportunities for having deeper conversations with families around the definition between bullying and harassment and some of those nuances, because I think that so often we hear that kids are doing things and it's falling into categories and buckets when really we have to kind of dig deeper to kind of unpeel the onion and the layers to see what's really going on. So I think there's always opportunities for that, and that's something we can certainly focus on.
Yeah, it just seems like, and maybe this is happening, it would be good to make sure that we're utilizing any opportunities where there may be a current issue that actually does erupt, and we're utilizing that as a kind of a teaching moment to have those discussions so that we can really make sure that we're engaging the parents and the students so that they're all participants and really making sure that they understand the solutions that need to happen and how they've got to be the active participants, which I'm sure that's, kind of part of it, but it seems like we need to make sure that we're engaging, utilizing, current issues that are happening. It's not like Marlborough is alone. Every district is running into it, but making sure that we're not hiding from it. We're kind of bringing it to the forefront and having the discussions around it. So, thank you.
Yeah.
Not easy work, but it needs to happen.
Thank you.
Anything else? Nope. Thank you, Ms. Castro.
Thank you.
Anything else, Dr.
I'd like to respectfully request the permission of the committee to let Mrs. Castro head on home and get back to the
Absolutely.
Hope you feel better.
Okay. I didn't see any minutes in the agenda, correct? Because Hetty's not here. I'll just. Okay. Moving on to public comment. Is there any public comment going once? Public comment. Public comment going twice. Public comment. Third time, public comment. Seeing none, we move on from public comment. Thank you. Action items and reports. Marlborough High School staggered openings, 2024 and 2025. Dr. Riley.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting me tonight. This is our annual request for approval of a series of staggered openings to help support some of our standardized testing schedule. And so if you look at the memo, the first date that we're requesting is October 9, that's a Wednesday, and that's to support our PSAT, SAT testing. And I've been told that enrollment for that is looking really healthy right now, so we're going to have a large portion of that student population between 10th grade and 12th grade that will be participating in those exams. Second set of dates is for the March ELA MCAS exam. Then we move into May for the math MCAS exam. And lastly, June 3rd and 4th for the science MCAS exam.
Thank you.
So I'm happy to answer any questions or...
Nothing? You know what I need? Oh. Mr.
Let's
Caruso.
go over here. Just quick, Dr. Riley, when the non-testing students do come in, where do they start their day from?
So they start their day right at 11 a.m., and we have a reduced schedule for classes on most of those days, on the MCAS days. For PSAT, SAT day, we're looking at an idea that we actually put into place pre-COVID, which was to take advantage of college and career opportunities throughout the day, looking at some opportunities maybe for speakers to come in the afternoon and meet with the classes and have different sessions, and also prepare for very important Spirit Week is right around the corner from there. So,
Very good, thank you.
thank you.
Anything else? Not? Need a motion?
Move to approve.
Thank you. It's been seconded. Any questions, comments, or concerns regarding the motion to approve? Seeing none, roll call vote. We'll start over here to my right with Mr. Caruso.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. It's been approved. Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Riley.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Moving on to the Massachusetts Association School Committee Official Delegate.
So every year at our annual conference for the Massachusetts Association of School Committees, we have a delegate assembly that addresses resolutions that various school districts and the board of directors and a committee that works on these topics come together, and delegates, and one delegate from each district is there to vote on these resolutions. So I would like to make a motion for this year's delegate to be Catherine Hennessy, with the alternate being Denise Ryan.
Motion's on the table and seconded. Questions, comments, concerns with the nominations? There's no objections with the two of you, I hope. So, seeing no questions, comments, or concerns, we'll do a roll call vote. We'll start with Ms. Matthews.
Yes.
Yes.
That was a very, yes.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you, and thank you, ladies, for stepping up. We appreciate that. Okay. She just doesn't have to get sick, so you'll be fine. Yeah, right.
We'll all be there
Moving-
for
moving
moral
on.
support.
The Massachusetts Association School Committee resolutions.
So these are the actual resolutions that will be voted on at the delegate assembly. And Mrs. Ryan has
offered to read them, as we do every year.
So there is 10
There are
total.
10 resolutions.
10. I'm only going to read the first whereas, and then I'll read therefore to be resolved, so that we'll hopefully get through these a little quicker.
Okay, and so we have to do, sorry to interrupt, let's do a roll call vote for each one of these, and we'll always start with Mr. Caruso to speed things through.
Okay.
Okay.
So the first two resolutions are on student achievement. So Resolution 1 is development of an alternative to the high-stakes MCAS test sponsored by the MASC Board of Directors. Whereas access to a high-quality, publicly funded education is a guaranteed right written into the Massachusetts Constitution, and I'm going to skip a few whereases. Therefore, be it resolved, urges Massachusetts to develop a wider, more conscientious built strategy for an evaluation system with meaningful input from legitimate stakeholders. Therefore, be it further resolved that MASC urges the state legislature to launch a comprehensive evaluation to investigate the extent of biases pertaining to MCAS testing and make these results public. Therefore, be it further resolved that MASC urges Massachusetts to enact a moratorium on MCAS testing effective immediately. Therefore, be it further resolved that MASC urges Massachusetts to develop an alternative to the high-stakes MCAS tests.
So it's been read, so we need a motion.
Move to approve.
And seconded. Questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none? Be okay?
Oh, I wasn't sure. I thought Heidi was gesturing. Okay.
Questions, comments, and concerns? Now is your time. Seeing none? Okay, roll call vote.
Well, my well-known love for the MCAS being what it is, yes.
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 Motion carries. Resolution 2.
Resolution 2, increase compulsory attendance age, sponsored by the Brockton School Committee. Whereas compulsory school attendance refers to the minimum and maximum age required by each state in which a student must be enrolled in and attending public school or some equivalent accredited education program defined by law. Skipping down to, therefore be it resolved that MASC recommends that the Massachusetts legislature increase the compulsory attendance age from 16 to 18.
May I add something? So, just for everyone's information, all of these resolutions go before the delegate assembly, and there's a lot of conversation back and forth. So what actually gets voted on sometimes is amended from what we are reading now. And so I just want to make it clear that we usually, and we can vote to task the delegate with using their best judgment based on the conversations and the activity that go on at the actual delegate assembly. This particular one, there has already, some of us attended a workshop on the resolutions just to understand them a little bit better. And there's already been conversation about keeping in mind that by raising the age from 16 to 18, that there's always going to be this group of young adults that leave school for various reasons, often economic, and that if something like this were to happen, that there would be a lot of work to be done as to what could support those students in their needs. So that's it. And I'll make the motion to approve.
there a second?
Second.
Any questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, roll call.
I do have concerns that all you're going to do when you do something like this is increase the, or decrease the attendance, because making something mandatory does not make it happen all the time. There's so many reasons why kids don't go to school now and leave when they do, as Mrs. Borden-Hesinger just said. But on the other hand, I'm an educator, and obviously I want the students to be in school, otherwise you don't learn anything. So it's a tough one for me, because on the one hand, I don't find this to be an effective, you're just saying we're going to raise that age is not going to make it work any better to my knowledge. I would pretty much, if there's going to be more discussion, and I'm sure there will be, my feeling would be to leave it up to our delegate to listen to this discussion and go from there and decide if it's a, so the way that this is written now, I can't support it this way.
Okay.
So no.
I guess my question is, why are we voting all these now when things could change then? That's what I like. I don't. It's, to me, it's a moot point.
So I guess I would say I think it's helpful for us to vote and or have the discussion around the table here, because either we're really leaning one way, really leaning another, or we are kind of like somewhere sitting in the middle, and it allows at least for delegate and the assistant to have that knowledge base of where our heads are, so that we can listen to. Sometimes things go ahead and they push forward quickly. Then some others do have a lot of discussion around it, and they really can change. But it just helps us to have a better perspective.
And the delegate is representing us. So if we don't vote, then she's going into it not knowing
It's
how
Catherine
to-
Hennessy want as not
to-
as opposed to all of us. So
So he voted no.
No.
I will say no as well.
I will say yes.
I think I'm going to lean with a no.
I'm a no.
I'm a no.
So it's not.
Does
Oh,
not. She said no.
no,
She said no.
not.
Okay.
Yep.
A no.
Good thing we voted.
Resolution 3.
The other thing on, sorry, the other thing on this one they spoke about is they want to vote on the two together. It may not happen, but I think that we feel differently about them, so that I don't think for us to support that, we
We'd
wouldn't
have to
support
split them.
splitting.
Right, yeah. The intention of the board, last year, things went a little off the rails and got a little chaotic, so they want to speed some of these along to leave more time for conversation on ones that require more conversation. So they are combining some of these, but just one person can just say, I want them split, and then they'll split them. So the first two were combined because they address the topic of student achievement.
All right, the next two are resolutions on student safety. Resolution 3 is safe storage of firearms. It's sponsored by the Framingham School Committee. Whereas safety and well-being of our students, teachers, and staff is top priority in schools, and keeping them safe from the threat of gun violence should be the responsibility of all adult stakeholders at each of our school sites. Then skipping down to the therefore be it resolved that MASC recommends all districts direct their superintendent and staff to create an appropriate communication to parents and guardians that explains the importance of secure firearm storage to protect children and teens from unauthorized access to unsecured firearms and their legal obligations consistent with Massachusetts safe storage law. Furthermore, be it resolved that MASC urges other communities to work with their local law enforcement agencies, health agencies, and nonprofit organizations to collaborate and increase efforts to inform district parents and guardians of their obligations regarding secure storage of firearms in their homes and vehicles.
Can I add a takeaway that we got from the training was the big point here is this is already a law. We're not, MASC is not, or Framingham is not recommending that we push for a law. There already is a law. And with the state of affairs in this country around gun violence, this school committee put this forward to just have the schools participate in letting parents know that it's the law.
Okay. I need a motion.
Oh, move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none? Okay.
I don't like being in this seat all of a sudden. I don't know why. It's like arguing against motherhood and apple pie when it's obvious we have a problem in this country, a big problem. But again, if you, just telling parents something over and over again, I don't know if that, I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing it, but I don't think it's effectively going to help much. But I can't say there's anything wrong with doing this except giving more work to the people on my right. And I'm not sure how much it'll be appreciated by those who need to read this, but I'll say yes because it's really not anything that's going to be causing any great problems, I don't think, except for Mary and the staff.
One thing I might add on that, if this does get approved, MASC will, just like they do with policies, draft and send out templates that districts can use or not use, as they see fit.
I will say no. Oh, sorry, there's a question.
Oh.
Yes, Heidi?
Is there a way to turn?
Yeah.
Put the microphone on.
Hold on a second. You're very low. We can't hear you. Catherine's going to try to turn up the volume.
As you know, I'm really good at this. No.
Pump up the volume, pump up the volume.
Should be a speaker option.
Yeah, if it's coming out of the speaker, can't you just move the microphone over?
Well, maybe she can ask it while you're standing there and you can.
Yeah, why don't you ask it now and I'll see if I can. She was trying to get clarification about what you said was the law.
It is cited in the, here somewhere.
Here,
right?
it actually is in the references. Well, there's a whole bunch of references in here.
Safe gun storage.
Yeah, there's like 9 references.
Chapter 140.
There is a Mass General law about safe gun storage. I don't know what the law
It's right
actually
here.
says.
Whereas secure storage of
Oh, here it is.
firearms is a legal requirement in Massachusetts pursuant to GL Chapter 140, Sections 131L and 131C, and failure to comply with secure storage laws can lead to criminal prosecution, jail time, fines, and/or revocation of FID card or license, depending on the offense, and that's the end of that one.
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay.
You sure there's no volume over there?
Her question to the delegate is, who is communicating it?
Who is communicating what?
The parents.
You know,
The law.
do you?
There is a speaker option.
Is there an actual speaker? If you put the microphone up to the speaker, will that work?
Put his mic closer to the TV.
Now speak.
Can you hear me?
Yay!
It's a good thing you're our
The
mayor.
Why you're the
mayor to the
mayor.
rescue.
Thank you.
I work at IT, I'm part-time.
Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Christian.
I was not questioning, so you, when you made a statement that this is the law I understand is that there are handgun controls and there are rules for safety.
Mhm.
That is not what we're questioning as a delegate or as a committee. Again, what we're being asked as a committee is it our responsibility for the schools to be the communicators?
To prevent school shootings? I believe yes.
Well, to communicate the laws. I believe, and I have to go check my notes, and of course I do not have them with me, but I believe last year when we voted on this, because this is not the first time.
Right.
I
They
believe we
changed.
rejected it then.
They changed this from last year. It's not the same as it was last year.
The law
Same
hasn't
No. The resolution is not the exact same thing as it was last year. They sent it back to Framingham, they reworked it, they worked with the resolutions committee, and that's what came out. So I understand that it got rejected last year. Whether it got rejected because people just felt that it was overstepping, that may still happen this time. But there were things that were cleaned up from the actual resolution that was presented last year.
Well, I will have to say that I also agree with Mr. Caruso that we have put so much on our administration already. Maybe there should be consideration that this comes from the police department. They have access to all the community members too.
Yep.
I will say I'm not going to vote in favor of it because I just think it's an unforeseen burden yet again on our districts. So that's my opinion.
Fair enough.
So I believe, Mr. Caruso, you are a yes?
I think I'm a no now.
Glad I asked. So there's a no from myself.
Yes.
I'm gonna say no.
And I'm a no.
No.
I'm a no.
Okay. It's a no for Resolution 3.
All right, resolution number 4, School Bus Stop Armed Surveillance Act and Enforcement Penalties, sponsored by the Peabody School Committee. Whereas it is against the law in Massachusetts to pass a stop school bus with the stop arm extended and flashing lights while student passengers embark and disembark the bus. Unless witnessed by a police officer, the penalties for passing a stopped school bus are minimal. The danger to the passengers is extraordinary and can prove fatal. Therefore, be it resolved that the Massachusetts Association of School Committees calls on the Massachusetts legislature to enact legislation to pass into law the ability for cities and towns to install on all school buses live digital video detection monitoring systems for the purpose of enforcing violations against the owner of a motor vehicle whose vehicle failed to stop for a school bus when required to do so by law. Sponsor rationale: the significant safety concerns present when a vehicle passes a stopped school bus embarking or disembarking passengers are endangering our students in Massachusetts. Presently, unless witnessed by a police officer, the penalties for passing a school bus are minimal. If the registration plate of the offending vehicle is reported by the bus driver, there is a minimal fine. Requiring a police officer to witness the violation prevents appropriate law enforcement action from taking place, especially for repeat offenders. Allowing the installation of and utilization of digital video detection monitoring systems on school buses will allow for appropriate law enforcement action, provide for monitoring and data pertinent to the safety concern, and serve as a deterrent to drivers who are contributing to this safety issue. Protecting the safety of our students is a paramount concern.
Okay.
So this isn't saying that schools have to do this. This is just saying that if schools choose to do it, that they can do it.
Well, I think it's asking the legislature to pass a
Which-
law to allow the schools to do that.
Correct. And there is a bill that is already in the process. It was reported out favorably last year, but not in time to pass, so it's going to go through the process again. So there is already a bill in the legislature regarding this.
I guess I'm more curious to see who's going to monitor all those videos and to actually enforce that.
Well, I don't think the people have to monitor, and what happens if somebody does it, the bus driver's gonna know.
Right,
And
but
then the
they're
bus driver will
driving.
report, somebody passed me, and then they check the
Sure.
tape.
Right, but unless they write down the actual time it happened,
Yeah.
then, and if they don't, they're gonna have to watch the whole bus route. If you do that, how many buses do we have?
33.
33, and if it happens numerous times, again, I guess my question is like the enforcement of that. It's gonna take a whole nother set of detective work or police, you know. I'm not saying that's a bad idea, I'm just saying like, when things like this happen, there's now consequences and now budget increases and an extra person, and I'm not saying that's a bad idea, but there's further budget necessities that are needed to enforce this, but.
I guess
this-
it's similar to there are some places where they have video things in place and catch people speeding.
The red light
And you-
cameras.
And you get a ticket in the mail. Somebody has to look at those too.
Right.
Like, there has to be a process to do that.
Yeah.
Which I don't think-
I'm all for it. anyway.
I don't think they're legal in Massachusetts.
No, what I'm
Right.
thinking of is not in
No,
Massachusetts, it was
right,
somebody else, but
but
there are
it-
places
yeah.
that do it.
Right, yeah. Ms. Matthews, I know you have a question?
Yeah, well, to your point, Mr. Mayor, my understanding that there is actually a current policy with NRT, and the superintendent is aware of this as we've talked about it, that the drivers now
Yep.
are supposed to, when it happens, they're at a stop, obviously.
Sure.
They're supposed to write down the time that it occurred and the street that it occurred on.
Yep.
And they are supposed to report it to NRT. Whether or not NRT is acting upon that,
Sure.
we
Right.
don't know the answer
Sure,
to that.
sure.
But that is how it's supposed to be handled now. As it says in
Right.
the resolution, it's a lesser fine. I know that in other communities in recent weeks, they have been doing, having police follow buses, the ones that we know are chronic.
Sure.
And it has reduced the amount of passing because they never know now when a police car may be nearby.
Right.
So, just a suggestion for our own community, but I'm in favor of that. I agree, I think Mr. Geary just said it, that it would probably be similar to the red light situation.
Right.
Ticketing and so on, which is, I believe, is part of that bill, not just for bus safety, but I believe it's also to be able to enforce red light violations.
Yeah, I'm not against it, I'm just curious to see how this is gonna go, you know, because it's, but, so any further discussion?
Did this not come up also last year?
Yes.
It did, yes. It got tabled because it was kind of at the end, and the delegate assembly was exhausting last year, and I think it was too late, and nobody wanted to deal with it, so it got tabled.
What was the overall consensus?
It never got.
Oh, it never even
no,
made it? Okay.
It didn't. We didn't even address it.
It was a very
It was-
long.
Oh, yeah, I just didn't know if it went to the process
Yeah,
and
no, it
tabled
didn't.
because the discussion was too lengthy.
it just got
There were-
tabled because.
There was a lot of contentious discussion about earlier things, and so this one just was like. eh.
Understood.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Oh, I thought you were going to ask if there are any comments and the usual question.
We just
Question?
did.
I
Comments?
think the discussion was already
Okay.
there. I think we're.
Did you have a question or a
No, I
comment?
had the question. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't interrupting the mayor. Yes.
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 Motion carries.
Number
All right, the next 1, 2, 3, 4 of these are resolutions on school finance. So resolution number 5, aligning taxing authority with the required local contribution. This is sponsored by the Arlington School Committee. Whereas Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 70, Section 2, establishes a required local contribution which defines a minimum appropriation for education. Skipping down to, therefore be it resolved that the Massachusetts Association of School Committees calls for the enactment of legislation that would increase a municipality's levy limit by the amount of increase of the required local contribution in excess of 2.5%, granting the municipality the ability to raise local revenues mandated by Mass General Law, Chapter 70.
Was this a question last year as well?
I don't think so.
Okay. So why don't we do the discussion beforehand? Questions, comments, concerns, discussions?
So am I to understand that, just to understand that what it's saying is that municipalities can raise taxes more than the 2.5% that they have a cap on currently in order to support schools, school
get it now.
budgets? Is that
Yeah,
how I'm reading
so-
that?
Right. I think the issue for, and this doesn't affect us here in Marlborough really, because we never approach our levy limit.
Correct.
But there are a lot of communities that are at their levy limit. And when you look at school budgets, if the school budget goes up 4.5%, but you can only tax 2.5%, then in order to get to that 4.5%, you have to make cuts. So that's what the people that are behind this, it's usually towns that have this issue.
Yeah.
It doesn't, there are a few of these that don't directly usually affect us here in Marlborough, but they do directly affect a lot of other communities.
But this just wouldn't be for the schools.
It would just be, that's what, so, and the thing is, let me just clarify too, like, all of these resolutions are just the association dictating what they want our lobbyists to talk to legislators about. None of these are going to go from here to the legislator voting on it. They're all just setting the tone and the agenda for the way that the lobbyists, both professionally and school committee members, focus their energies when they're talking to the legislature. So this came up from a community that clearly struggles with this.
Okay. Further discussion? Seeing none, I will ask for a motion.
Move to
Or-
approve.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Okay. No further discussion, and roll call vote?
Yes.
Well, no?
Yes.
No.
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 Thank you. Resolution 6.
My numbers are, all right, Resolution 6. Support of legislation to improve the fiscal health of rural school districts, sponsored by the Deerfield, Sunderland,
Yep.
Whatley, and Frontier Regional School Committees. Whereas rural school districts in Massachusetts face daunting threats to their financial stability and thus to their ability to provide rural students with the same quality of educational opportunity enjoyed by students in other parts of the state. Skipping down to therefore, be it resolved that MASC urges the legislature to pass comprehensive legislation encompassing all recommendations from the Legislative Commission on the Fiscal Health of Rural Schools report, A Sustainable Future for Rural Schools.
Any discussions?
I just want to add that the second whereas, actually, so what happened to a lot of rural schools that have declining enrollment? The second whereas says, whereas the Commonwealth has rightly touted the state's significant increase in education funding following passage of the 2019 Student Opportunity Act. However, the most needy rural districts and declining enrollment districts have received less than 1% of that increase in funding. So the Student Opportunity Act was supposed to correct this, but in actuality, it didn't for some districts. So they made this commission, this legislative commission on the fiscal health of rural schools, and they spent all this time and energy researching this, and they have come up with a set of recommendations. And so that's what this is just asking for, that the legislature act on what that commission said.
Further discussion, questions, concerns? Need a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
And seconded. Okay. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Thank you. Resolution 7, yes?
Nope, next we have 7. Resolution 7, fully adjusting Chapter 70 aid for inflation, sponsored by the Everett School Committee. Whereas Chapter 70 of the general laws provides a structure for allocation of school aid based on the foundation budgets that reflects the needs and costs for Massachusetts school districts. Just seeing if I should read more. I guess I'll scoot down to, therefore be it resolved that MASC calls on the Massachusetts legislature to advance legislation mandating inflation index catch-ups to Chapter 70 foundation aid that fully accounts for realized inflation that has occurred since the passage of the Student Opportunity Act. Be it further resolved that MASC work with the Massachusetts legislature to ensure in future years where realized inflation is above the 4.5% annual inflation cap. In subsequent years, inflation index catch-ups are made to Chapter 70 aid, and that realization inflation is used in the formulas to calculate Chapter 70 aid in perpetuity. Not a word I use that often. Perpetuity.
Questions, comments, concerns regarding Resolution 7? Seeing none.
Into the weeds of school finance.
We need a motion then.
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call votes.
Yes.
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 Thank you. Resolution 8.
Moving right along. Resolution 8, equitable funding for non-regional school districts with high transportation costs.
That's us.
This one is sponsored by the Plymouth School Committee. Whereas many non-regional school districts face significant financial burdens due to the extensive transportation costs and longer routes required to serve their students. Therefore, be it resolved that the state recognizes the financial challenges faced by many non-regional school districts due to their higher transportation costs and longer routes. The state acknowledges that non-regional school districts should have access to financial support similarly to regional districts when costs are extraordinary. A special fund shall be established to provide financial assistance to non-regional school districts with higher transportation costs. This fund should be known as the Extraordinary Routes Relief Fund. The funds provided through this program shall be used exclusively to offset transportation costs, including but not limited to the purchase and maintenance of buses, fuel costs, and driver salaries. Eligible non-regional school districts may apply for grants from the Extraordinary Routes Relief Fund to cover a portion of their transportation-related expenses. An oversight committee composed of representatives from non-regional school districts, regional districts, and the state's education department shall be established to ensure the fair and transportation allocation of funds from the Extraordinary Routes Relief Fund.
Thank you.
Do we want the rationale?
Well, basically, they want to set up a circuit breaker type program that once you hit a certain target number, if you're above that, then you would be eligible to get funds, I guess, in arrears like circuit breaker.
Questions, comments, concerns?
It just sounds like more people having to manage, like who's going to manage it?
I have to say, I just, at this point, I think it needs to be, there needs to be a discussion, definitely, around the cost of transportation, but I don't feel like this is the solution. I think there needs to be a much bigger discussion about transportation issues across the state, and that the state needs to get more heavily involved in helping with, however the funding structure is. I don't think a relief fund is necessarily the solution I would be pushing for
Well, that's
myself.
what they're calling it, but they're making it like circuit breaker.
I understand. I guess I'm just not,
It's more of a Band-Aid than an
yeah,
FX.
I just am not feeling where they're going with this right now. I think it needs to happen, but in a different format.
Ms. Matthews?
I'm in agreement with Mrs. Hennessy. I think this is too open-ended. Do you use a determination of distance in a non-regional? Because some might say that travel time might be a factor, and you can have charter schools, for example, who may, because of enrollment, have longer travel times within a city or a town. And does that mean they qualify? Or in our cases where we have, I realize it's out of district transportation that is exceeding what we budget for, but where are the cutoffs? Is it 125% of what you were budgeted for? Is it, so I agree with Mrs. Hennessy. This is a bigger conversation that I don't think this resolution nearly addresses.
Okay. Further discussion? Motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, roll call.
No.
Yes.
No.
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 Okay, thank you. Number 9.
All right, the last two are regarding vocational and technical school groups. So Resolution 9 is the MSBA grants evaluation for Chapter 74, sponsored by the Tri-County Regional Vocational Technical High School Committee. Whereas Chapter 74 vocational, technical, and agricultural high schools incur higher costs to build Chapter 74 educational training spaces. Whereas MSBA currently assesses all school building projects at equal value. And whereas vocational, technical, and agricultural high schools renovation building costs are dispersed to sending districts impacting local budgets. Therefore, be it resolved that the Massachusetts Association of School Committees calls upon the Massachusetts Legislature and MSBA to create an elevated tiered system to separately assess the cost of 1, elementary, 2, comprehensive high schools, and 3, vocational, technical, and agricultural schools, resulting to true cost reimbursement for each school category.
Okay, we'll open up to questions, comments, concerns.
One of the questions that came up in the training was why it was just mentioning elementary schools and comprehensive high schools
And not middle schools.
middle and secondary high schools.
I can pretty much guarantee that's going to get changed on the floor. It's, yeah. I mean, the bottom line is they're asking that they have a tiered system.
Motion
Any
to approve.
further? Okay.
Yeah, I personally think the whole MSBA needs to be revamped. So this would be part of it, but it's not the be-all, end-all. There's a lot that needs to change with MSBA. But
It's a motion on the table. Is there a second?
Did I make a motion?
She did.
Oh,
Second.
thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Okay, motion's on the table. Questions, comments, concerns? I don't think there are any more, so we'll start with a roll call.
This is another issue that requires a much bigger conversation than Mrs. Bonehead just said, so I'm going to vote no.
I will also vote no.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
No?
No.
Does not carry.
5-2?
Back to you.
All right, and the last one, Resolution 10, expansion in capacity in Chapter 74 vocational and technical programs, sponsored by the Tri-County Regional Vocational and Technical High School Committee and Neshoba Valley Technical School District. Whereas Chapter 74 vocational and technical schools in Massachusetts are experiencing unprecedented applications for admission, and more students from their sending districts are being waitlisted. Therefore, be it resolved that the Massachusetts Association of School Committees calls upon the governor and legislature to support the expansion of capacity at the current Chapter 74 schools and to work with districts that lack access to vocational technical schools to create programs. And be it further resolved that the Massachusetts Association of School Committees calls upon the legislature to convene a special commission to consider changes to the current law and regulation relating to the overall authority of the Massachusetts School Building Authority, alternative overall financial structures, standards for project eligibility, appropriate financial assistance based on the nature of the school and the projects being considered, potential differential requirements for elementary and middle school, comprehensive high schools, and vocational, technical, and agricultural schools, and other such matters as affects vocational and technical education.
Thank you. Questions, comments, concerns?
Isn't this kind of the same thing as the last one?
Yeah.
Ms. Matthews?
Am I reading that right? I don't know. What's the difference?
Ms. Matthews, question?
I'm going back. What was the final vote on number 9? Because I didn't hear everybody's vote.
It was 5-2.
It failed.
It failed 5-2.
I understand. I just didn't know what the numbers were. Thank you.
5-2.
So the difference between the two, one focuses more on MSBA changing its practices so that it gives vocational schools more money per square foot than other schools because their costs are higher. That's the first one. And the second one wants to open up seats. It wants to expand vocational schools, both like Assabet, like brick and mortar schools, and also there are a lot of high schools that have Chapter 74 programs embedded in their schools. So they have vocational education. But there are pockets around the state that kids don't have access to any vocational education. So they're asking for the legislature to make it so that they can add seats.
Further questions, comments, or discussions? Seeing none, I need a motion, please.
Move to approve, whatever. Or second.
Second.
Oh, second.
Thank you. Motion's on the table and seconded. Seeing no more further questions, comments, or concerns, we'll do the roll call.
It does seem that the second be it further resolved pretty much is the other resolution. I mean, so to me, it's kind of hard to separate that. I understand their need for the extra seats and stuff. That I definitely go along with, but I'll say yes.
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 I'm yes, and I agree with you. I would want to have it separated too, just so I can articulate as a delegate. I don't think they should
Be together.
be together at all.
I don't think any of them should be together personally.
So, just whatever.
No.
I'm a no, and I just wanted a little explanation back to the delegates, is that, yes, the separation on the seats is vital, and to sneak, I'm gonna say this, and I know it's probably wrong to say it, but to sneak that into this resolution, and I say sneak it in, it's because, as we know, with vocational schools, they had to change their admissions policy, and many of them are not very happy with it. So to sneak this into a resolution, I don't think is the right way to do it.
And I'm going to articulate right back to you that don't worry, your delegate will be more than happy to communicate that, because that's not the way to make something happen. So I got your wavelength. I'm there with you.
Thank you, everyone, for all of that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan, for their impeccable reading.
Yes.
Appreciate that. Moving on
Exceptions.
to acceptance of donations and gifts. Now it's my turn to read. Alrighty, so the Whiting Turner Contracting Company donated $300 worth of school supplies.
Move to approve.
Do you want to do them all so that we can do one roll call?
We can, sure. Brookline Center for Community Mental Health for Marlborough Public Schools for $42,500. The fiscal year 25 FC 460 Early College Support Grant for the Marlborough Public Schools for $75,000. Fiscal year 25 FC 240 and 262 IDEA Consolidated Grants for the Marlborough Public Schools for $1,598,446, as well as $70,910. And the fiscal year 25 FC 305 1040, 180, 309 ESSA Consolidated Grants from Marlborough Public Schools. It's for $1,262,580, $152,832, $248,865, and $74,319. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, $9 figures that I have here.
Move to approve all of the donations and gifts.
Seconded. Yes? Questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none. Ms. Matthews, we'll start with you. Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
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 Alrighty. They've been approved. Reports of school committee subcommittee. Do we got anything for that? Hallelujah. Moving on. Members forum.
I have approved the warrant and signed it.
Excellent. Thank you. Anything else for members forum?
Any of our other members?
Atul? Got nothing?
Nothing tonight?
What, do you want to go home? Has it been long enough for you? Okay. Members forum, going once, twice. Favorite part of the show?
Mrs. Matthews.
Mrs. Matthews, what do you got?
Sorry. I'm surprised that the superintendent didn't say it, but to remind her that tomorrow's a half day of school.
That's right.
Oh, half day.
I forgot what day it was.
What's the occasion? Professional development? Or just
Yes.
'cause?
It's teacher collaboration time,
Nice.
professional development.
Love that. Thank you. Enjoy the half day, kiddos. Anything else from members forum? Going once, twice. All right, give it to me.
Move to adjourn.
Hallelujah. Seconded. questions, comments, concerns about adjourn? Seeing none. Ms. Matthews, roll call.
Yes.
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 Get the final word? Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
We are adjourned at 8:59. Thank you, everyone. Have a great